Hello tipsters and tricksters, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another vintage tips and tricks video. If you're new to my channel, my name is Bea. I'm a vintage glamour enthusiast and musician. I make vintage beauty and style videos with a little bit of sustainability, veganism and lifestyle thrown in for good measure. So if that sounds like your jam, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know when my videos come out. This is a long overdue video. A lot of other vintage creators have made this video and so I kind of felt like it wasn't really needed in this space, but something occurred to me recently, and that is that each creator that's made a video on how to dress vintage has made it from their perspective of how they dress vintage, which is great. And obviously the people who are following them because they like their style and they're looking to them for inspiration, so that's fine. But I was thinking about how I could contribute something different, and I think the thing that I tend to bring to the vintage community, and that was a big part of my Facebook group when I was running it, is the idea that there is no right way to dress vintage, that no one should be policing other people in how they dress, and that vintage doesn't have to mean authentic. It can really be whatever you bring to it and however you want to express your personal style. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk today about how to start dressing vintage and where to get some inspiration if you're struggling to take like that first step.
What have you got if you haven't got love?
I have previously made a video all about finding your personal vintage style, which I will link up above. That is more of a chatty video talking about the concept that there is no right way to wear vintage, but this is more specifically about tips on how to get inspiration and what kind of silhouettes to look for, etc. if you're going for a particular look. Editing B popping in here to introduce our sponsor for today, which is Sarsaparilla. I'm really excited to be working with this brand because they're actually from my home country of Australia, and specifically Newcastle, where I spent a lot of my childhood growing up because my auntie and my cousins live there. So this just seemed like the perfect fit. Pun intended. I love how bright and colorful the pieces are. This is a brand that brings together vintage silhouettes with some pop culture references and an injection of color. The founder and head designer of Sarsaparilla, Maria Murphy, designs her pieces under the motto, wear your true colors, which I think is just a gorgeous way of expressing the concept of fashion as personal expression. There is no right way to dress vintage, and I think this brand really represents that in the sense that it has got quite a modern feel to it, but with that kind of kitsch retro vibe as well, which I really, really like. And I know that there are a ton of you who really like to bring a pop of color to the way that you express yourself in your vintage fashion. So I think that there will be those of you who really, really like this brand. I chose the classic pedal pusher style with ice cream sundaes all over it and these really cute little velvet heart buttons on the knees, and a 1940s style top that has the little puff sleeves to it and the really pretty sequined love heart. I just think it's super cute, as well as having that retro fit that I like, but it's nice for everyday wear, it's comfortable, and it's just really fun. Like, you're out and about in something that doesn't have to be like boring and plain. Like, just because something's comfortable doesn't mean that it has to be boring. You know what I'm saying? I have linked their website down below, so do check it out. I believe they just released a Peanuts collection as well, which is really cool if any of you are a Peanuts fan. And even if you're not, I just think that's a super cute concept and I think it works really well with their style. And of course, I have a special deal for you. So if you click the link below and use my code BTownsend20 at checkout, you will get 20% off your purchases. Of course, a big thank you to Sarsaparilla for sponsoring today's video and for supporting my content. Let's get back to the video and talking about how to start dressing vintage. So within the vintage community, there are so many sub niches. I follow so many people who have completely different styles from each other, and I really respect that because I really like it when people have their own way of dressing and have a real clear personal style. So I don't think of vintage style as one particular little pocket, as I know some people do. There is so much overlap with the way people dress, and not everyone dresses in one style all the time. And I think it's really important to make everybody feel welcome and like they're part of something. And so I think that we should be embracing that and encouraging lots of different sub niches under that one heading of vintage. Has this become my thing now on my channel? Like, I feel like I do this in every video. I should just sit here doing this the entire time. It's not annoying at all. So when I think of vintage sub-niches, I think of pin-up, rockabilly, there's like alternative. When I think of alternative, I think of the people who like to, like, you know, do different colored hair or They'll wear a vintage silhouette or like a very traditional kind of 50s housewife style, but do it all in like really bright colors. But there's so many different ways to kind of look at that. There's like the gothic styles, there is era specific. Some people only dress 30s or 20s or 60s. There's the kind of hippie style, there's the mod style, there's people who go totally authentic and even their houses are completely authentic. Then you've got people who are pre-20th century who are in the vintage community. There are so many huge YouTubers. Of course, Carolina is one, but there are many who do pre-20th century stuff and really focus on that. I still think of them as being in the vintage community, and I know that they refer to themselves as being in the vintage community, even though technically I think that counts as antique. It doesn't matter. It's all about having the freedom to express yourself however you want. When I dress vintage, I gravitate particularly towards the mid-20th century. That's just my personal style. Sometimes I do quite a modern take on it, or sometimes I do kind of a fashion take in that I'll take a whole bunch of different elements. Like I might take a 60s beret and a 40s top and 50s pants, like, and then just randomly put modern shoes with it. Or I'll just kind of really mix and match in order to create a particular look that I have in mind. But other days I just feel like dressing like authentically 1940s, or I have an amazing vintage dress from the 30s that I want to pay homage to and make the focus of my outfit. And so I'll go really authentic just so I can show off that piece. It does change a lot. I like that eclecticism, and I think that's what makes fashion fun. And most of that inspiration came via the wonderful app Pinterest, and of course a Google search. I did grow up watching old Hollywood movies and looking at my grandma's wardrobe collections and stuff like that, like many of us. But when I'm looking at putting together outfits now in the present day, I tend to use Pinterest and Pinterest boards, or I Google particular movie stars whose styles I love. And then I will look at all sorts of casual outfits that they wore to get some inspiration as to how things in my wardrobe could potentially have that vibe to it, depending on how I pair things together. So as you can see here, I look at people like, of course, Marilyn Monroe, Lauren Bacall, Eartha Kitt, Elizabeth Taylor. There's a huge variety of people. I think Bridget Bardot's in there as well. I think there's also Dorothy Dandridge and Audrey Hepburn in there. Like, I have a really wide variety of influences. A lot of them come from the 1950s. That does tend to be where I fall back to for my everyday style. I do like to perform in like a glamorous 40s look. I think that like Femme Fatale and all of those movies about like nightclub singers and stuff, that's always influenced my performance kind of persona and look. But my day-to-day vintage wear is a very 50s look, even early 60s. And so these are the people that inspired that. And you can see a really clear inspiration kind of line here. I like pencil skirts, I like capris, I like kind of classic patterns like checkered patterns or houndstooth, and I like, you know, pretty standard colors like blacks and whites paired with like one signature color. I don't tend to go a lot of outrageous prints. There's a big thing in the vintage community for novelty prints. Never been my personal kind of draw. I love them and I think they're really beautiful, but when I wear them, I'm like, oh, this is not really me. So like even today, I've got like quite bold pants on with a print on it, but I've paired it with a really quite simple top. That's always been my way. I like to have like one item of clothing to be the signature of my outfit and everything else to complement that. And you can really see that in my Pinterest board, I think. So this is a really great way for you to put together like your wardrobe inspiration, because it's one thing to put together one outfit, but then, you know, you don't want to be buying 1,000,001 clothes or getting too specific about buying your vintage clothing, because unlike with modern clothing, you can't see something on a billboard and go and buy that exact item. You know, you can't see Marilyn Monroe's pants and then buy that exact pair of pants. You need to try and kind of get something that fits that concept. When I put together a Pinterest board like this, I think about silhouettes. Like, for example, for the 1950s, it's that real hourglass shape. So high-waisted pants, cropped off tops and cropped off pants so that your capris are cropped, you know, just below the calf, and your tops are cropped at your true natural waistline. Little cardigans that do the same thing. So whether you're getting vintage or you're getting reproduction, you know what to be looking for, and maybe make a little list like that. Like you're going to go just high-waisted, and then when you go to the shops, if it's an op shop or it's a modern high street shop or it's vintage, you can just try on everything that is high-waisted: skirts, pants, shorts, etc. And then you kind of know that you're aiming in a particular direction, and then you can look at what actually suits you when you try it on. The other thing is to pick up accessories. So whether it's high-waisted wide belts, or it's seamed stockings, or it's silk scarves that you can tie around your neck or tie around your waist, or even, you know, do as an actual headscarf with a big set of sunglasses. Think about what are the key elements in these styles that you've picked out on your Pinterest board, and then aim for those rather than going, I want to recreate this specific outfit, because that can be really difficult. I mean, there's classic ones like Audrey Hepburn's all black outfit. That's something quite simple. They're very classic pieces that even in the high street are still available. Whereas if you're looking at someone who's got an interesting print on, or a 1950s circle skirt with like felt applique or something, like, you might be able to find that, but it's going to be very, very expensive. So it's about looking for a particular silhouette or particular key elements to the outfit, and then trying to hit those key points. So you might go, all right, I'm going to start looking for a high-waisted pencil skirt to add to my collection. I know I can buy some seam stockings from what Katie did. I'm gonna look for classic kind of Ray-Ban style black sunglasses, like the ones that Audrey wears in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I'm gonna get myself a collection of silk scarves or satin scarves from op shops, because there tends to be like big bins at the op shops just filled with that kind of stuff. And then I know I can put together like that basic, classic Grace Kelly, Audrey Hepburn, even Bridget Bardot kind of look. If you guys are interested in getting more specific about it, I have got videos for different decades. I've done 1930s, 1940s, and 1950s, what women wore in that era, so that you can find out like what kind of shoes, what kind of handbags, what kind of skirts and tops and jackets and all that kind of stuff. It goes into more detail. So I'll leave the playlist here, or maybe here. It's been a while, I think it's here, for you guys to have a look if you want to get more specific for particular eras. But obviously that's more to do with true vintage style. So if it's that you want to dress pin-up, you can look on Pinterest, just type in pin-up fashion, and a bunch of influencers and models and even pin-ups from the 1940s and 50s will come up, and you can put a board together that might be inspired by modern pin-ups, like Hot Rod Girls or pin-up doll Ashley Marie, or even Vintage Vandal, people like this who've got like a really distinctive kind of modern pin-up style. There's also people who go for the more kind of like country girl, autumn vibes styles. So I'm thinking of Rachel Maxey, Shiranatra. They have that really kind of classic white shirt with sort of nude and natural tones and like autumny colors, very earthy. Rachel describes it like she's got like a hobbity style, as in like the aesthetics of the Hobbit community. I think that works really well in a vintage style. It's not my personal style, but I love following their accounts because I think they put outfits together beautifully. So also putting together like little saved folders of influencers whose styles that you like, so that you can look at them all together in a grid and get a sense of what it is that kind of creates that style, the colors, key pieces that are going to instantly make you look like you fit into that little category, so that you can start to emulate it. I think for the most part of the community, if we get really general about it, there are certain things that the, I guess, like mainstream vintage communities, they're like the biggest of the vintage influencers, tend to have these boxes checked, and that is like circle skirts, pencil skirts, grandpa trousers, high-waisted stuff, turbans, red lipstick, winged liner, victory rolls, saddle shoes, ballet flats. These are all things that are kind of really generally vintage and are a good starting point if you don't know which niche you fit into. If you're kind of aiming for those things, you'll start to feel like you're part of the community and that you dress, I don't want to say the right way because there's no right way to dress vintage, but you know, that you're kind of hitting that initial mark and you're kind of creeping your way into the style. And then over time, you will develop your own sense of personal style within the vintage community. You might find a particular niche, or you might create a style all of your own. Both things are perfectly fabulous. If you check out any influencer's site, usually they have a video or a reel on their Instagram about where they came from and where they are now. A lot of them started in a pin-up style. Some people started more like hippie style. I would say I started more in like the hippie 70s vibe and slowly came into 1950s and then went 1940s, and now I'm back to like late 50s, early 60s. There's a real evolution to it, so don't worry if when you first start dressing vintage, you still don't feel like you've found the right style for you. It will come. Like, have a play around. Don't be scared to just try things out. You might try red lipstick and be like, I am definitely not a lipstick person, and you don't have to wear red lipstick to be vintage. You know, a lot of the time I'll wear like a peach. I even do nude and focus on the eyeshadow and go more sort of 60s style. You know, not everyone in the mid 20th century wore makeup. There were women who just were barefaced. I mean, a great example of that is Katharine Hepburn. When she wasn't on screen, she hated wearing makeup. She used to just wear like really simple shirts and slacks and like slides or lace up shoes and just her hair in a messy bun and no makeup. You know, if you try something out and you're like, oh, this is not for me, like high-waisted pencil skirts and red lipstick, not for me. There are so many other ways to dress vintage. So I think I will leave it there. I hope that this video was helpful in some ways. Let me know down in the comments below what it is about the vintage style that makes you think vintage, what really connotes vintage for you, because I feel like for many people it's going to be different things depending on who you follow and your own personal style. I know some of you currently don't dress vintage, and that is perfectly fine as well. You're allowed to just like the style but not be ready to dress that way, or maybe you don't want to dress that way, you just enjoy watching other people who do. Whatever is your thing, let us know down in the comments. I would love to read them. A big thank you once again to Sarsaparilla for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out their collections down below. It's all in the description along with the discount code. Come and follow me on my Instagram. Check out my Patreon, it's linked down below. We have a Discord community over there where we all chat and get to know one another, do Zoom calls together. We have extra content every month. There is the base level where I put a different video out every month for you guys, and then the music tier has a music specific video as well as tons of other perks too. So do go and check that out. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Bye.